200 billion naira, regional authorization 50 billion naira, and for merchant banks, the national authorization is 50 billion naira. Non-interest banks, national authorization 20 billion naira, regional authorization 10 billion naira, and that is why we are bringing to the fore what the CBN is telling banks and why we think the Nigerians should come into this, look at it holistically, and see if this is something that is achievable for the banks and every shareholders of the banking sector. Our topic this morning is bank recapitalization, and we have two guests in the house. One will be joining us via Zoom from the United Kingdom. Dr. MOHAMMED, ADEBESIN, Customer Advisor, Lloyds Bank Group, United Kingdom. You're welcome, Mr. MOHAMMED ADEBESIN.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming and joining us on Ogtv. Now we have a guest in the studio with us who is someone that is into that sector, who will be telling us a lot about this topic. Dr. MUIDEEN ISIAKA is the coordinator of Abeokuta Business School and also a senior lecturer at the Department of Economics and Aquarium.
Good morning, huh?
Thank you for coming on the program. Now the bank recapitalization, we still have 14 months to go. That is 14 months to go for the deadline. The threshold has been set.
Thank you very much. And good morning.
Good morning.
We got everyone in the studio. To start with, the word is recapitalization. And then that means we have an initial capitalization. That's why we are having a recapitalization. Let me put it that the first capital is made up of, because the more share capital the bank has, the more it can withstand shocks, the more it can handle transactions, and then the more ability it has to withstand losses. Before now, prior to 1952, there was no share.
Yes.
Necessary one.
If you look at it, you say 25 billion. We are not talking of 200, 500. It's not 25 to 30. It's not 25 to 35, which shows that the deficiency that CBN saw there would have been there long time ago. So it looks like something that we would have done long time ago. Maybe we could have moved from 25 to 50 at a time. Then after some time, move to 70, move like that. So the major issue is, what are we looking at that gave long time that we now need to jump so wide like that?
To 500 billion.
To 500 billion. That is just the concept. But that we need it is clear. If we are not needing, maybe they are saying 25 to 27, we say, okay, what is the difference? So it shows that there's deficiency there. Another thing is, Nigeria is aiming to reach over 1 trillion economy by 2030. So when you are doing things like that, the kind of transaction that the banks will need to finance has changed. So they also need to be at the top. There is a kind of structural change in the Nigerian economy. For example, with the deregulation of electricity, some big companies may decide to generate their own power. So the kind of investment required in such area is different. So if you are talking of, if you want consortium of money deposit bank to finance maybe Lagos, Calabar Road, Abuja, Nasarawa, something, rail or whatever. So they will have the money. So we need it. Nigerian economy has grown out of where they were, so we needed it. The only issue is whether we would have done it earlier than this, so that the pace, so the instability that the gap may cause is just the issue.
Now, people are now saying that from 25 million naira to 500
billion.
Okay, 25 billion naira to 500 billion naira. That will put some kind of pressure and strain, really, on the banks. Do you think anything of such, may happen?
Yes, it will happen. The only thing is that the stress they will pass through to achieve it is what we don't know yet. There are things some banks may like to do it on their own, but when they try, they cannot get it. That may make them to be discussing merger or whatever. So they may need to take option that they wouldn't have chosen if they had maybe more time, or if the gap hadn't be that wide. That is the
lesser target
to me. So that is just the issue, but it is achievable, and we actually need it, and then we needed it before now. So that is the implication of the wide. What the wideness, the gap may be telling us. We ought to have done it before now.
Now, Mr. ADEBESIN, let me come to you and let us look at the economy really as it is. Quite a number of persons, yes, also of the opinion that it's a good one, it's a welcome development really to recapitalize the banking sector. You know, but some persons are saying coming at a time when we just removed fuel subsidy, coming at a time when we just floated the naira, and of course we all know the effects that all of these two policies have actually had on the economy, that it might actually not really be the best of times to recapitalize. And even if we are going to recapitalize, that target of 500 billion naira may actually not, you know, I mean, it shouldn't be that much. What's your thought really on this?
Yeah, thank you. I think the reasons that people give why it should not be done are the real reasons why it should be done. Because if there's inflation, if there's a removal of subsidy, if the naira is devalued, we should not forget that they don't exist in a vacuum. There is relativity to international economics in all those things. We are just looking at the naira value, 500 billion. But if we are talking about investments, if we are talking about multinational investments, if we are talking about financing Nigerians to become multinationals as well, don't forget that multinationals doesn't have to be foreigners. Nigerian businesses too could be multinational. So if we are saying Nigeria wants to finance its own business, its own economy, if we want to build a Nigerian economy, it doesn't have to be within Nigeria. So that we should conquer Africa. So if you look at 500 billion, if you take it to dollars, you will see that it is just because we are talking about a currency that has been devalued. And if we are talking in terms of this, establishing business, you don't source all the materials locally. You are involved in importation. You have stakeholders. Don't forget that we're raising this same 500 billion we're talking about. We're talking about foreign injection of capital as well. So if it is not raised to that students who have raised it to that level, they have done put together all the metrics to look at the bank to be able to stabilize and handle such level of transactions. My colleague in the studio just mentioned that we are looking at achieving a $1 trillion
dollar economy,
just on the line. Those goals are not just on paper. There are goals that if you want to achieve it, you have to take the bull by the horn. They are not just rhetoric. And it takes a lot of guts to put in place such policies. And I must commend the CBN government for being able to take such a tough decision. You see, at times what happens with the public is that social media has made it that many of people, the people who know less and less comment more and more. There are some countries things are not easy with people, but banks are not individuals. And that's the main reason why it is better for the banks when the shareholders' size increase, when the shareholders' risk increase, when the bank capitalization is high. Don't forget that it is equity, not their debt. If you ask them to go and generate 500 billion debt, that's not a big deal. But it is the share capital that we're talking about that it should hit 500 billion. And that makes the bank also a major risk taker. No bank wants to have 500 billion at stake and wants the bank to go under. Nobody wants to risk that. But if it is 25 billion, sorry to say, some corruption malpractices, everything to that, look at the risk factor and look at if I lose it, if I gain it, what do I lose, what do I gain, and they don't see the calculation. And they don't give a damn, and everything goes under. They start chasing people around. You know what the legal history of Nigeria is? You can be on legal matters for 20 years. What is it called? Uncourt. How many debts have Amcon been able to retrieve? How many? How many depositors have lost money before now that have been able to recoup their money? It's so far away, Savannah Bank and all that, we have it. So to prevent all such things happening, this is necessary. The amount we are looking at is not for an individual, it's for an institution. And don't forget, it is for commercial banks that are having international presence that require 500 billion. If it's a national bank that is not having international presence, it's 200 billion. It comes down 50 billion, even up to non-interest banks that have national presence for 30 billion and the ones that have regional presence for 10 billion. So nothing says you must play the 500 billion ball. If you can't play the 500 billion ball, come back to 200 billion. I think when I said international, when I is on 200 billion. So if Access Bank, Zenith Bank, UBA are playing international, they should be on that pedestal. So there's no sentiment about the issues. And also, banks, it never stops banks from merging. And when you merge, more shareholders come together, your risk is also higher, and it makes it healthy for everybody.
Okay, Mr. Adebesin, let's look at it. Are you there? Okay, let's look at the wave of merger that would happen when there's a recapitalization and not met in some banks or acquisition. Do you think it will come, or you think all those banks will work towards the threshold and be able to overcome the time frame and come out with positive things when it comes to time for them to start fully on the new policy?
Yeah, so in analysis of business decisions, stakeholders sit down and look at what's their goal. And we look at plan 1, this is what we want to achieve. Plan B, if we don't achieve plan A, we should follow B. As of now, all banks want to stand alone. Because when you talk of merger, even when the merger is on equal times, somebody is swallowing up somebody. And that's the fact. But it is good because the bigger, the stronger. There's nothing to be afraid of. If you are in the business of banking, and what you aim to do, what the stake for the executives is to increase the shareholders' pool. And to increase the shareholders' returns, it is to do business ethically and do business properly. Also take advantages of good areas of investment in the economy. Another thing I would like to mention is that the government needs to come hard on intervention because the banks seem to only want to finance the big names, the blue chips, because they feel that's where their money is more secure. I think the government needs to come in with some kind of security for the SMEs and the new starters so that they can access bank funding. It's not, accessing credit in Nigeria is not easy. I worked in bank in Nigeria, when I left Nigeria, I was a banker also. And I know what it is. The only small or medium income earners that will get a loan easily in the bank are the salary earners. And that is because their salary comes to the bank. If you're a business person, you rather push it to that, you rather go to microfinance banking to get funding. Because you don't even have the requirements. Because you don't have the CFO. So government needs to come in, and if government is serious about turning the economy around, the multiplier effect of finance for small and medium enterprises is more important to take people out of poverty than having hundreds of the likes of Dangote. They will only continue to employ people to work for them. They will create entrepreneurs. They will create new people that will grow business. Look at agribusiness, for instance. What's agriculture like? You have expanse of land. Why is agriculture not booming? It is not only because of expertise. Funding is part of this. We keep operating at subsistence level. If you want to look at commercial agriculture, you have to be looking at Olam, you have to be looking at the big names. You are foreigners. And these people don't come to do food first. They come to do cash first because they have to make money. They have to export this food to their countries where their industries need them. How many big farmers do cash first, do food first? Everybody gets cash first. The money is in cashew, the money is in maize, industries like beauties and all that. Who goes to do cassava? Who goes to do cassava? You know the poultry we talked about, who do poultry on live scale, how many? So it's not just about the capitalization, they need to come in with regulatory requirements and government intervention to secure funds given to SMEs. So that the bank can be secure that, okay, funds given to so level of people, the government is guaranteeing that to the large extent, if there are issues, if you have to proceed and work it out, it happens everywhere in the world. Okay. When we have bailouts, we have social support structures, we have social benefits and all that. It is not that every government is a face mask. It's just that if you don't do it, you end up spending more than that to solve the problem that it will cause.
Okay, let me come to Dr. ISIAKA now. The other time, Mr. Adebesin raised the issue of SMEs and applying for loans. Don't you think this raising bar of the capital requirement of banks now will make it more cumbersome for them to even go near the banks? Before now, it was a very serious process. Now, if it is raised from the 25 billion naira to 500 billion naira for commercial banks, are we saying the SMEs should operate within their capital without going to banks for loans and grants?
Okay, thank you. In my own view, instead of increased capitalization, making it difficult, I believe it will make it easier. Okay. The reason is that banks will have more money to work with. In fact, out of 200 billion, you may dedicate 25 billion, let's assume that is the scale of your operation, to the SME, because you now have more money. And if CBN bring a rule and say so amount out of your loan should be to SMEs and co, because the money is there, so we can be talking of all those ones. So there will be a lot more. But there's one issue. When we say bank is not ready to give SMEs loan, we are looking at it like from one side. Why would bank not want to give SMEs loan? If they give loan, they make returns. So they are doing business. The only thing is the risk of getting the money back. Now, if they give money to SMEs and then they cannot get it, do they have anywhere to go to? Can they report it? Do we have something the way we have PFCC? Can they hand it over to government and say, help us recover our money or whatever? They will not get any support. So that is why they continue to increase the requirement to make sure that they minimize the risk. In our area, in our environment, you could hear somebody taking even the microfinance loan or even cooperative loan. When you get back, you'll be looking for all corner way to avoid it. So when they do that to a level, it will become difficult for another person to get it. So we also need to look at it from that area. I don't think it is their interest to say they will not give loan, but it's because of the risk. So if government guarantee some SMEs now that, okay, we want money to go to agricultural processors and the like, and government guarantee that if you don't get your money back, we'll give you 50% of it. More of them will get it because the bank, the risk that the bank is taking has reduced. So those kind of things can reduce it. So concerning SMEs, I believe there will be more money for banks to help them.
Now, Mr. Adebesin, let's look at another fear some persons in some quarters have actually raised as well about the recapitalization, and that's the fear of downsizing in terms of personnel and staff. But quite a number of persons are of the opinion that yes, the banks can actually achieve this recapitalization of the different amounts based on their category, and then with little really, with a minimal or no downsizing at all. So what would you really suggest? How would you suggest the banks, go about achieving these recapitalization targets, and of course with a minimal or no downsizing at all?
Okay, thank you. There are two different issues. Downsizing or reducing staff strength does not raise your capital requirement. It's only an attempt to increase your profit. Before it can have that effect on capital requirements, it's in the long run, not in the short run. So if people say banks will have to downsize, then that means the banks will not be achieving their spread. Downsizing in banks is not new. From time to time, banks are about the highest recruiters and they are about the highest downsizers as well. It's this kind of system that is a kind of a cycle, maybe bringing in new people. But I don't want to use terms that are capitalist in nature, like when you take up the heavy, maybe you have to pay heavy funds, everything at some point. They have to go and the very first people that are at a lesser cost, train them over time. There's that kind of recycling in the system, and it's not new, it's not now. So if banks, whether banks do 500 billion or they do 500 billion every year, at some point, banks will downsize. Because banking, the way it is run in Nigeria, is target driven. So when you are in sales or you are in any unit, you run appraisals. And when you run appraisals, and it's already in the rule that if you are below certain level in your appraisal for maybe 2 times or 3 times, you will leave. So a marketer that has a target of 22 billion to deliver, and the first appraisal is due 20%, the second appraisal is due 20%, the third appraisal is due 20%. That person has to go. So that's what I said earlier. I spent about 15 years in banking and I've been in operation and sales, so I know how this things work. If you say banks should always downsize because the system that is run in banks is an appraisal metrics that has its terms and conditions clearly stated. It's only maybe if government comes in and there are labor regulations and all that, they fight all these things because it's not only in other clients, banks operate and you don't see them down. They don't downsize this way. And the system of operation of chasing targets and all that is not always the same as the way it is done in Nigeria. But that is another issue. So bank recapitalizing is a different ballgame entirely. It is for them to be able to stand the test of resilience. It is for them to be able to finance the level of business and transactions that is required at their level. So if a bank chooses to downsize, how will it expand? You can't achieve the two at the same time. You can't say you want to downsize and you want to expand. You don't. It's either you downsize, you employ more to replace those who downsize and increase it more, or because there's no shortcut about it. If banks downsize, it is for a different reason. Maybe they want to take out non-performing staffs, they want to bring in new staff, or they are bringing experienced people from other places. It's happening. Bankers move around. That will always happen irrespective of capital base. It is the system. And in fairness to the bank, even an employee as the parent is being employed is being told that you are going to run a performance metric where your appraisal is based on this. And if you do this for so time, the bank can ask you to go. So I think that explains that.
Now let's talk about how the banks can actually go about. I don't know if you have actually touched on that really in the explanation, how the banks can go about, achieving, these particular targets.
Yeah, to achieve the capital requirement, just as I told you earlier, this is finance. They have their books. A lot of people want to invest. Even apart from the people who buy the shares locally, there are a lot of foreign investors who have liquidity and you are looking for where to push funds. Just in diversity, in the agri sector, Saudi Arabia just invested about 500 billion in dollars, taking up a major stake in dollars. it's at some point in million banks, there's an investment team from the UK that was having about 60% of union banks until recently when that changed. So these banks only need to, investors only need to look at their books and look at what they are doing alongside the economic forecast of the country. For instance, the recent stabilization of the naira is a positive one because investors don't want to go where the currency is very volatile. Even if naira is 2005 to a dollar, which we don't pay for, but if it is stable, it is easy for projection. It is easy to take business decisions. But if it is 1.5 today, when it is 900, next year it is 1,002. If it is too volatile, if you look at the currency index, look at pound, dollar, euro, you see that their changes is always less than 1%. It's just 0.3, 0.4. It moves the year round. You can actually see the volatility gets to 1%. Or even 1.5, you have to see. But if you look at Naira, it's just jumping in double digits. And that's investors don't like that.
Okay, Dr. ISIAKA, let's talk about the interest rates now. Some people fear that with this new recapitalization policy, the interest rate that is somehow very hard affecting businesses and the economy now will also be increased. Do you think it is something that these banks will look into, and how will it affect the economy if it is increased peradventure when they come on board, when the new recapitalization starts by March 31, 2026?
Okay, thank you. There are a lot of factors that determine the interest rate. The CBN benchmark given to them is also part of it. Then they will look at how risky the business they are putting the money into is. So when they have more money after the whole process, they will be looking for a way to use the money. So it could generate another set of competition among those that survive at the end of the day, as they will not want to be redundant. You cannot have so much billion and then you are working with less than half of it like that. So as they are trying to do that, it is also possible to have low interest option in some area that meet their target. So I don't think because they want to get their, I can't think of any reason why they will be increasing interest rates because of increased capitalization. So it may actually reduce the interest rate because one of the risks is that when you have money and then you are thinking if this money doesn't come back, how will it affect me? But if that money is just 0.0001% of your entire money, then you don't really bother much like that. So there's no panic, and then you can reduce the cost of it. So that's.
What if the interest rate is increased?
If the interest rate is increased, it will have implication on the cost of doing business in other parts or other businesses, and it will also lead to contribute to inflation to some extent, because all the businesses, all the people that are using their loan to fund the business, the part of it they will need to recover before they can now talk of profit will be higher. So it will increase cost of business and then will lead to higher inflation.
Okay, Mr. ADEBESIN, likely now on the program we'll be looking at the commercial banks. Now let's talk about the merchant banks and the non-interest banks. Their authorization is 50 billion and 20 billion for the national authorization. Do you think this will bring any impact to their growth, impact to how they operate, impact to how their shareholders will be able to operate within the banking scope?
Thank you. The decision of the CBN to place their own capital requirements very low. And so from my own experience, I would say, at times when you want to encourage entry into a particular industry, or you want to encourage more participants, you make conditions very easy. The entry in commercial bank is very, very competitive because it is already saturated. But the interest bank and merchant banks are very few. So if the CBN could have put that in place, one, to encourage entry, two, based on the level of transactions they handle, based on the level of what they do. So they have taken a costly look at the merchant banks we have in Nigeria, the non-interest banks, what they are currently doing, what's their current capital base compared to their level of transactions. One fact is that Nigerians have not really embraced non-interest banking. It's a new form of banking. And I don't think 80% of Nigerians are even aware that there's something called merchant banks.
Merchant bank.
So for that reason, the CBN will be very, very unrealistic to not put stringent conditions on them when they are already an endangered species. So that could explain why they have to tone down on them. And don't forget that they are few, so their supervision and all that is easier with CBN and their level of transactions. I don't think the merchant banks or the non-interest banks, as we see now, have capacity to finance some kind of a transaction. The CBN will not allow them unless they are coming together as a consortium. Maybe 3 or 4 non-interest banks or 3 or 4 merchant banks are coming together to take up financing a particular business venture. Most of this is done by the commercial banks. Not even the microfinance banks can just take deposited money and the shareholders and go and trade somewhere. There's a benchmark, there's a ratio of the amount of the capital you can trade with. That you can have. There's the CBN adequacy ratio for each of these products. Up to names, their CASA, current and savings, and all that. So that defines those requirements. So I will conclude that it is because that area of banking still needs to be supported to grow. So that would have defined why their conditions for entry are still a kind of encouragement.
Now, still stay with you, Mr. Adebesin. You have, from what you said, you worked in the banking sector all your life. And of course, I know you still have friends, really, in the banking sector in Nigeria, where you left before moving over to the UK. Now, from your interactions with them, are the banks actually putting in place measures to actually achieve these targets? Don't forget, it's less than 18 months to the deadline.
Thank you. I can tell you that some of the banks have already met that target.
Oh,
some of the banks are already playing in that asset. Wow. This is very small bank. So the first commercial banks, I don't think they will struggle to do that, because when the regulator sets a target, they do set it blindly. They have a back-end information.
Definitely.
What is happening. And those who need to double up to catch up, they know. And those who need to catch up that need to go to Mada, they know. It is just a kind of, like I said, I think when I started, I said increasing share capital is also to increase shareholders' risk. So that you can't be playing with 5 trillion and your shareholder risk is 25 billion, 30 billion. It's setting fire on the mountain. So if the share capital is increased, 500 billion, definitely the CBN has information. What level of transactions these banks carry out. Don't forget that these banks these first-tier banks are not just Nigerian banks. A lot of them already have presence up to the UK. They have presence in France, have presence in the US. So to access their capital base for 500 billion, their foreign location is also a factor that they consider into that. Don't forget that despite their face internationally, they are still Nigerian banks. So that is
now, you said that some of these banks, I'm coming to you now in the studio.
Okay.
He said that some of these banks have actually met they are operating in that sphere, in that area already. While of course, some of them, yes, are making efforts to really get there. I don't know why you were talking earlier on, you also said that there will be room really for mergers, for those who are not able to accomplish or to hit that target, they can merge with other banks. Now, does that have any impact? Because when banks are merging, it means that we are going to have a reduction of the number of banks that we are going to be having in the country. Now, does that have any impact really on the economy when you have a reduced number of banks?
Yes, thank you very much. You asked a question before about downsizing. That merger is the area that can actually lead to that.
Downsizing.
Because by the time 3-4 banks are coming together, some rules that they have somebody carrying it out in bank A, B, C, D, they now need one person to be doing it for one bank. So others, if they cannot find rule for them, they will need to go.
Ask them to go.
Okay. But it may also create new rules, like he said before. Now, if the number of banks are reducing, we're having the market players are becoming fewer. And from economics perspective, the lower the number of players that you are, the less competitive the market is. If they now reduce and they now become like 8, that's a problem, because it means that they can just have, if 6 of them can have meeting and say we'll be doing this, it will be like we have only one. So reducing, having the number very few is not good for us. So I pray that if that will happen, it will not be much at all. Banks themselves don't like the merging because there are a lot of issues. Banks have different structure, they have different culture, they have different operational modality. The people that founded the bank, they have different business orientation, different rules of ethics and professionalism. So when you bring them together, even after they operated for many years, you find out that it's difficult for all the customers you brought, all the staff you brought from bank A to adapt to that of a bank B they have merged with. Some customers will not be satisfied because the orientation is totally different. So there are a lot of issues on the margin. There are the previous merger that happened. Some of the banks were not able to perform well because of some of these structures that they did not envisage before that actually happened to them. So it's a serious matter. And I believe they will consider it only as last option.
Okay, the last time we had recapitalization in Nigeria, I think there were lessons that should be learned. Now we are having a new one, a new policy of recapitalization. Do you think we have crossed our T's, dot our I's on the last recapitalization, and this new recapitalization, will it be a way forward to enhancing our economy?
Thank you. I believe that the CBN will have done scenario analysis of how the thing can play out. They have the history of what happened, the previous one. So the banks also, including the bank staff, they have the history of what happened before, and everybody will try to avoid making the same mistake. In every situation, new issue will come up at the end of the day, but I believe that because we have done it before, we have experienced it, we have discussed the advantages and disadvantages, this one has the opportunity to be better. If you look at the duration of time they give them, I believe that is part of the lesson from the previous one, that you have to rushed. It shouldn't be rushed, so you can plan it. Some banks actually meet it in 3 months, like he said. Some already in other West African countries, they are the biggest bank. A bank in Nigeria that we look at, is the biggest in that place, that is stretching every other one, something like that. So some of them are operating on a large scale, they can meet it, but they have given that rule. And then the way they have also classified, there are those that are operating at this level. If they have made 100 billion for all of them, you know it will have serious implication for those that are not at that level.
That's
so, and there were regulations that have come before. Before they have told them that if you know you cannot operate at national, then come to regional. Some of those things were not there before. So now they are able to give them targets that they think they could meet.
All right,
so,
thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. MUIDEEN ISIAKA, who is the coordinator of Abeokuta Business School and also a senior lecturer at the Department of Economics and Aquarial Sciences at Crescent University, Abeokuta, here in Nigeria. And we also had a program with Mr. MOHAMMED ADEBESIN, a customer advisor at Leos Bank Group, United Kingdom. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the program. And that's the size of the program for this morning. We'll be leaving the stage for other programs for the day, but we'll come back, as Neil Don said, on Friday to have another edition. And for tomorrow, it will be for the Yoruba version. But until then, we say have a blessed day ahead. And from Dominic Agbea.
Yes, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.